Hello, everyone. I'm Roadrunner,
And I'm Night Browser.
and welcome to Rock and Alt Read-Through, where we go over the various movements of Billboard's Rock and Alt charts. This week is pretty quiet in terms of debuts, so let's get to something that a normality at this point, which is our Rock and Alt wall. So why don't you start us off on our top 10 Night Browser?
Alright, at number 1 we have Something in the Orange by Zach Bryan, holding at this spot for its 11th week with 50 weeks total. Great streaming, and it actually dodged recurrency on the Hot 100 despite charting for more than a year due to light country radio pickups. So yeah, nothing is challenging this anytime soon. And number 2, we have Until I Found You by Steven Sanchez on its 58th week. Although decent, and its streaming and radio is slipping more each week, so it's up in the air for how well this will hold. At number 3, we have Bad Habit by Steve Lacy on its 43rd week. Streaming is very stable, and radio has basically evaporated. I could see this holding above Until I Found You soon. At number 4, we have Sunroof by Nikki Daisy on its 64th week, and is still here due to lack of competition in good radio, but that could be interrupted soon by our current number 5, Need a Favor by Jelly Roll. It's holding here at the moment, which continues to gain sales and radio and doesn't see signs of slowing down. All it needs at this point is to get more streaming behind it. At number 6, we got Dawns by Zach Bryan and Maggie Rogers, which just inches to its increased spot to its more stable streaming, as they are literally one spot away on the Hot 100 from our number 7, which is Ceilings by Lizzie McAlpine, as its streaming continues to slip and radio is still having a hard time getting on board. We'll have to see where this goes. At number 8, we got Lost by Linkin Park, up to 11, which has lost most of its meaningful streaming, but is still doing decent on sales and has a very good radio run. Now is your time to push the pop, Linkin Park. At number
Yeah.
9, you got Here With Me by David, down the spot, which continues to have some pretty decent streaming, although not much else. At number 10, we got Helen Back by Barcar, which holds steady as streaming continues to remain stable and even steadily increases as the weeks goes on. Alright, Runner, why don't you do the losers and dropouts this time?
All right. For losers and dropouts this week, we didn't have much going on. Jack by Hardy finally goes recurrent as radio drops it after 25 weeks and peaking at 21. Most probably will make the year end. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Every Metallica debut drops out completely this week, apart from 72 Seasons, which drops hard down from 16 to 39. And Dancing in the Courthouse by Dominic Fike drops hard off the debut to 41.
Good.
Yes. Now onto our gainers re-entries, and we had a total of 7 re-entries due to the fallout of last week's debuts
God
and
damn.
other previous album bombs fading, all in succession from 43 to 49. So listing all of them quickly, going from the bottom up. Back at 49, we have The Death of Peace of Mind by Bad Omens.
Yes.
Back at 48, we have F2F by SZA.
Ooh.
Back at 47, we have Motorcycle Drive-By by Zach Bryan.
Nice.
Back at 46, we have Tormenta by Gorillaz featuring Bad Bunny.
Ooh.
Back at 45, we have Green Green Grass by George Ezra. Back at 44, we have Let the Light In by Lana Del Rey featuring Father John Misty.
Nice.
This being currently higher than A&W is really surprising to me.
Oh, yeah.
And finally, back at 43, we have Cool About It by Boy Genius, as well as Not Strong Enough by Boy Genius, rebounding big from last week, from 47 to 34 this week.
Oh wow! All of these re-entries, well, aside from Green Green Grass, they're like really good.
Yeah, I was surprised too. Yeah, no complaints on almost any of the re-entries. Rescued by Foo Fighters shoots all the way up to 15 due to them finally having a full tracking week and insanely increasing radio on alt.
Nice.
And finally, Those Eyes by Newest continues to dodge a currency as its alt radio run continues up to 27 on its 26th week.
Hmm.
And now, onto our short list of debuts, which we only have three. So let's get right into it. Our number 37, Mermaids by Florence and the Machine. Seems we have a new deluxe track from the new Florence and the Machine album that released, pretty sure, last year. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, it's from 2022.
yeah, and who could have seen this coming? It's pretty good. What a surprise from
Yeah.
Florence and the Machine.
Yeah.
um, the grand instrumental work with like the horns and the dramatic pianos and drums are just so good, and it seems to be a commentary on beauty standards, and is very well written too, and also seems to be a commentary on the experience about gaining notoriety, with the one particular line that stood out to me being shining under lights from shitty clubs and doing shitty drugs and hugging girls that smell like Britney Spears and coconuts. It's like with the instrumentation, lyrics like these don't fit, but also they fit so well for just having so much of like, you know, like it just was like unexpected. So that was just a great swerve, and yeah, great track.
Oh
No
yeah.
complaints.
Yeah, Florence and the Machine are a band that I honestly respect more than I really love, and though I can't say this changes my view on them, this is still very good. The instrumentation is grand, especially with those orchestral strings throughout.
Hmm.
Florence is as powerful of a performer as is usual, reminiscing of the early days when her band was only just forming, looking at all the pain she went through from her substance abuse around them, but also showing her lack of regret around that period of her life by noting all of her moments of joy during that time frame. My only complaint, and this might be a nitpick, is the horns here sound pretty cheap, at least compared to the rest of the instrumentation, and they're distracting enough for me that they do kill a little bit of that song's power, but overall, I'd give this song a recommendation.
Yeah. Now onto our number 23. We have the Dumb Song by AJR. Oh boy, another AJR single. And I'll give them this. This is some of the best production I've heard from them yet. Of course, they had to ruin some of that good production with the most, like, talk about cheap sounding trumpets. The, like, the trumpets on these sounded so cartoony and so cheap and plasticky in the worst way. And just that really bad bridge. I don't know what they were trying to do there. But all the soft rock elements of it worked really well to their credit.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, the lyrics have all that classic AJRisms, and it's just not good. And it has like the cliche topics from them of not feeling adequate as an adult or feeling immature. It's the waters they've definitely treaded before. Although not as bad as I thought, still not particularly outstanding. Cool to see them improving though.
Yeah, I was dreading covering this, and while I wouldn't call this bad, it's really frustrating for me. Apart from some ska elements, it sounds similar, or at least to me, it sounds similar to a lot of that era of early 2010s indie pop, which is a step up from their usual sound. The guitar line
Mm-hmm.
here is bright, and the melodies are pretty smooth. But where it falls apart for me is the lyrics. While I get the sentiment of how not thinking all the time isn't always a bad thing and can even be beneficial, it's framed in a way where they seem to have their heads in the sand towards any outside problems, and it's not helped by the chorus where they suggest their intentional ignorance is out of fear of getting blamed for anything,
Yeah.
which makes them look more dickish and relatable. I can
Mm-hmm.
see the appeal here, and I'm happy to see them improve as artists, but this really could have used a rewrite or two.
Definitely agreed. And now for our highest debut at number 22, we have If I Were a Fish by Corook featuring Olivia Barton. So seems this new track is coming from a popular TikToker called Corook. and it did well on sales this week, along with having decent streaming to boot. And you gotta say, it's even if it's really cool having some non-binary representation on here. I would call Corook as having it. It reminded me a lot of Dancing in the Courthouse last week, and I kind of call it like Dominic Fike syndrome, where it seems that they crank up their quirkiness levels to 11, and it uses it as kind of like a writing crutch,
Yeah.
instead of like writing something like like
Yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna explain later, but like the instrumental also is just really bare bones. It doesn't give much to work with as it's just the guitar. And like the whole stream of consciousness, they have this like whole stream of consciousness thing about like the singer or like the character being different objects.
Mhm.
And like and I can see where they're coming from about like self-consciousness and the imperfect nature of some of these objects. Like they were talking about like that heavy, like a heavy fish or a rock with like cracks in it. um and like I can totally see where they're coming from, but when they use their quirkiness in their lyrics, as opposed to like anything substantive, it takes away from it a lot, and this whole track just fell really flat for me.
Oh yeah, I I mean, like you said, I think it's cool to see a non-binary person art here, and I really wanted to like this, especially given the intentions of the song. But
Mm,
man, the production here is very plasticky and obnoxiously chipper. Not helped by, of all instruments, a kazoo section at the end.
oh yeah.
Not it's also not helped by Corook's performance. As you said, it's a lot like Dominic Fike's with Dancing in the Courthouse. It's very shrill and nasal. Oh, and like I think the lyrics did have good intentions
Mm-hmm.
intentions and all, but like I've seen these topics handled with more detail and depth
Yeah.
elsewhere, and with how saturated and over bright this sounds, they come across us as very forced and cloying, even
Yeah.
more so than they should. Uh, like I feel a little bit making Agma criticizing this, but oh man, it just does not work.
Yeah, I kind of I kind of felt bad criticizing this too, but yeah, I just I really wish this was better.
Agreed.
Um, so for your awards, what were your worst and best of the weeks?
Uh, Best of the week for me is gonna go to Mermaids by Florence and the Machine, while my
Mhm.
worst of the week will go to If I Were a Fish by Corook featuring Olivia Barton.
Yep, same here. We're on the same page. Mermaids by Florence and the Machine gets best of the week for me, and If I Were a Fish by Corook featuring Olivia Barton gets worst of the week. Um, and who would have thought that we would have made it through an episode and not given AJR worst of the week? Uh, um,
Imagine if you started to show like a lot earlier on. Maybe that
oh
would happen.
yeah, definitely. I would not doubt that. But yeah, I think that's all for this episode. Pretty quiet week. Next week seems we have some big hitters coming through. We have an Millennium Avril Lavigne and Travis Barker collab. Although I don't know if they'll count that for the Dance EDM chart.
What?
Instead,
Well, to be fair, I think Millennium song charted previously before. I think it was back in 2020. Can't remember the name though.
yeah.
That was
I
after
mean,
they added
I
alt songs. So
yeah. I mean, I listened to it. It didn't have a lot. It sounded a lot more rocky than like EDM. But yeah. We also have a Tame Impala and Thundercat collab, as well as the National and Taylor Swift collabs, which are looking to debut pretty high next week. So
oh
we have those
yeah.
to look forward to.
Actually, I think they're. I think they're. From what I've heard, there's like several more rock and lean tracks on that Olivia album. So we'll
Oh,
see
oh
if
yeah,
more than that Avril track can chart.
oh yeah. That would be interesting. um, if Illenium gets like somewhat of like an album impact, but
Yeah.
yeah, we have those to look forward to next week. We would definitely appreciate a like and subscribe. You know you want to. Comment your favorite debut this week too, as we're always interested in hearing other perspectives. And thank you to everyone who watches the series. We appreciate you very much. I'm Roadrunner,
And I'm Night Browser.
and we'll see you next episode.